What if the life you're living right now isn't the one you were meant for? What if every dream you've buried, every talent you've ignored, every moment you've wasted wasn't random, but a result of the habits you repeat in silence? And what if you're not stuck because of your circumstances, but because of the tiny decisions you've made on autopilot decisions? So small, you didn't realize they were shaping your entire future. This isn't about motivation. This isn't about hacks or shortcuts. This is about identity, because every day you wake up, you're either building the person you're destined to become, or you're reinforcing the version that's keeping you average. These 10 small habits, if you dare to implement them, will do more than shift your routine. They will rewire how you see yourself, how you move through life, how you respond to pressure, and how you create the future. You know deep down you were meant to live. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to wake you up, hold you accountable, or hand you a blueprint. But right now, if you're listening, there's a moment of decision rising inside you. Will you keep living on, repeat, surviving each day like it's a chore, or will you use today to begin again as the author of your own transformation? Because one thing is certain, if nothing changes, and nothing changes. But if you lock in these habits, not just once, but daily, you'll look back months from now and wonder why you ever accepted less. Your breakthrough doesn't need permission, it needs a pattern, and that pattern begins now. His name was David, 36 years old, divorced, 2 kids. He rarely saw, and a job that paid the bills, but drained the soul. He didn't hate his life, but he couldn't remember the last time he was excited to live it. One night, alone in a dim apartment, surrounded by silence and fast food wrappers, he opened a blank page on his laptop and did something he hadn't done in years. He imagined a future, not just a vague someday, but a real moment 5 years ahead. He wrote as if he was already there. He described his life in detail, his body strong, his mind sharp, his business thriving, his kids proud. He talked about peace. Not the kind that's borrowed through escape, but the kind you build brick by brick through purpose. And when he finished, he signed it from the man you promised you'd become. That 5-minute letter changed everything, because for the first time, David didn't just wish for a better life, he saw it. He gave his mind a target. And once the mind has a vision that feels real, it starts moving like a missile locked on a destination. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why you feel stuck? Why every year feels like a remix of the last? It's not because you lack potential, it's because you lack precision. You're not aiming at anything. And when you don't aim, you drift. When you drift, you settle. And when you settle, you slowly bury the future that once lit your soul on fire. But what if I told you that a 5-minute act of imagination could pull you out of that rut and launch you into motion? What if one letter could unlock every door you thought was closed? This isn't wishful thinking. This is psychology. Your subconscious does not respond to vague desires. It responds to detailed vision. That's why athletes visualize their races. That's why CEOs write mission statements. It programs belief. It awakens strategy. It flips the brain switch from passive to powerful. So here's your move. Sit down, 5 minutes. No distractions. Write a letter from the future version of you. Not the fantasy you, but the fulfilled you, the one who followed through. Make it real, make it vivid, make it emotional, and then read it every morning until your mind forgets. It's a dream and starts believing it's a command, because the only thing standing between you and that future is whether you dare to see it before it arrives. Her name was Michelle. She was always moving, always answering calls, fixing problems, rushing from the task to task, like the world might collapse if she slowed down. But something inside her felt off, not broken, just disconnected. Her energy was scattered, her mind loud, and her confidence dimmed by the noise she couldn't escape. One night after a long day that felt like all the others, she walked into her apartment, turned off the lights, and sat on the floor. No phone, no distractions, just silence. She lit one candle, not for ambience but for herself. That flame became her anchor, her signal to stop the world and come back home to herself. And in that stillness, something shifted. Michelle didn't just create a space, she created sacred ground. Now, let me ask you something. Where do you go to remember who you are? Where, in your home, your life, your day, do you retreat to reconnect, reset, and rewire your mind? Because here's the truth. No one tells you transformation doesn't happen in chaos. It happens in stillness, and if you don't intentionally create that stillness, the world will steal it from you. You'll spend your life reacting, not creating, thinking, not feeling, existing, but never fully alive. You don't need a temple or a retreat in the mountains. You need a chair, a corner, a candle, a journal, a place where Your soul knows this is where I meet me. Call it your power space, your strategy lab, your soul's sanctuary. But make it real, because the moment you honor your environment will start honoring you. Studies show your brain links environments with behaviors. You sit on a couch, your brain relaxes. You enter a gym, your body prepares to train. What if you had one spot that instantly told your mind it's time to think bigger? That's not decoration, that's activation. Michelle learned it, I've lived it. And you, if you're still listening, might need it more than you realize. So before you chase another goal, before you fix another problem, carve out your sanctuary. Not because the world demands it, but because the version of you you're becoming is already waiting for you there. Jake was the kind of guy who never stopped moving. Emails, notifications, messages, alerts. His day looked full, his screen always lit. But if you look deeper beyond the motion, you'd find a man drowning in digital noise. He wasn't building, he was reacting. He wasn't creating, he was chasing. One night, after a long day that felt like a blur, Jake sat in his kitchen with the lights low and asked himself a question he couldn't ignore. When was the last time I actually finished something that mattered? Silence. And in that silence, he realized the truth. He was mistaking activity for achievement, distraction for progress. You ever feel like that? Like your days are full, but your life is empty. Like you're busy every hour, but deep down, you're still stuck in the same place you were last year. That's not time management, that's attention bankruptcy, and no one's coming to fix it for you. Here's the reality. Your mind was built for focus, but the world is designed for noise. Every buzz, every ping, every scroll is stealing your clarity, fragmenting your thoughts, and keeping you locked in mental poverty. So what do? You declare war, 1 hour a day, unreachable, non-negotiable, no phone, no tabs, no apps, just deep, focused, uninterrupted work on what actually matters. Call it your 90-minute detox, your zone of power. Because when you give your mind that space, something wild happens. It starts performing like the genius it was built to be. You access flow, you finish what you start, you reclaim your time, and with it your confidence. This isn't about hustle, it's about mental sovereignty. The power to think clearly in a world addicted to noise. Jake learned this the hard way. He started with just 1 hour each morning, no phone until after. Just him, his mind and his mission. And in 30 days his output doubled. His anxiety dropped, his clarity soared. He felt alive again. So I ask you, what would your life look like if you gave your best energy to your real priorities, not your digital addictions? If you don't protect your focus, you won't just lose your goals, you'll lose yourself. The 90-minute detox isn't optional, it's survival. Ethan used to whisper things under his breath like, I'm not ready, I'm not good enough, or worse, maybe this just isn't for me. He didn't realize that every time he said it, his subconscious was taking notes, building a reality that matched the script. He kept repeating. You see, your voice isn't just sound, it's a signal. It programs your nervous system, instructs your belief system, and directs your behavior. So here's the question. What are you teaching yourself to believe every time you speak? Because if you're not saying what you want, you're reinforcing what you fear. There's a moment in every transformation when silence is no longer strength, it's sabotage. And in that moment, what comes out of your mouth either builds your future or buries it. Ethan hit that wall. One morning, fed up with the spiral, he stood in front of his bathroom mirror, fists clenched, eyes locked on his reflection, and said it out loud. I am not average, I am not weak, I am building something the world hasn't seen yet. His voice cracked, his chest tightened, but something shifted. It was awkward, even uncomfortable, but that moment rewired him. Because when your voice hears your conviction, your body starts to believe you. Most people never speak their goals aloud because they're afraid to sound foolish. But what's worse, sounding foolish or living small. Here's the truth, the brain believes. Repetition. That's how habits form. That's how fears root. That's also how you change. Speak what you want every day. Make it personal. Make it powerful. Don't say, I hope to be successful. Say, I am becoming someone unstoppable. Say it like you mean it. Say it until your nervous system wakes up and says, then let's act like it. What you whisper becomes what you live. What you speak becomes what you shape. And the future that once felt far away, it starts to bend towards your voice. So go ahead, say it out loud and don't stop until your reality catches up. Tyler stood at the edge of the stage, palms sweating, heart-racing voice trapped in his throat. It wasn't a stadium, it was a room of 30 people, but to him it felt like a battlefield. For weeks he'd rehearsed his pitch, for months he'd dreamt of launching his business, but in that moment, staring into a sea of strangers, all he wanted to do was turn around and disappear. That's fear. Not the kind that screams, the kind that whispers, stay safe, stay small, stay invisible. And most people listen, not because they're weak, but because they've been taught that discomfort is danger. But what if it's not? What if discomfort is direction? What if fear is not the enemy, but the signal that you're standing at the threshold of your next evolution? Let me ask you, how many moments have you backed down from the thing that could have changed your life? That message you didn't send, the idea, you buried the truth you swallowed just to avoid shaking the waters. You're not stuck because you're incapable. You're stuck because you've rehearsed hesitation more than you've practiced courage. Here's the truth. Courage isn't loud, it's quiet, it's private. It's built one decision at a time, and it doesn't come before action, it follows it. Tyler walked onto that stage. He stammered, he shook, but he finished. And when he walked off, something had changed. Not just the way others saw him, but the way he saw himself. He didn't become fearless, he became familiar with fear. And when fear becomes familiar, it loses its power. That's the habit. Take one brave step every single day, not once a month. Not when it's comfortable, every single day. Speak up in the room. Start the podcast, call the mentor, post the content, apply for the job you think you're underqualified for, because bravery repeated daily becomes your baseline. You don't rise to greatness in the big moments. You rise because you practiced being bold when no one was watching. And here's the warning: if you don't lean into fear, fear will lean into you. It will control your choices, shrink your voice, write your story. But if you lean in even just 1 inch at a time, you begin to reclaim your power. And that version of you you've only seen in flashes, that confident, decisive, fearless version, that version is already inside you. It's just waiting for you to take one more brave step. Brian was the kind of guy who crushed his mornings, cold showers, clean to-do lists, a strong start, but by the time the sun set, everything unravelled. His energy tanked, his focus scattered, and he'd lose himself in mindless scrolling, late-night snacks and mental fog. He couldn't figure it out. He was doing everything right in the morning, so why did he still feel stuck? The truth hit him during one of those quiet, sleepless nights. Staring at the ceiling, he was losing the most powerful hour of his day. And most people are. Let me ask you something. What are you doing in that last hour before your head hits the pillow? Are you investing in your future, or are you numbing yourself from the pressure of the day? Because here's what they won't tell you the hour before sleep, is when your subconscious is wide open. It's the moment your mind becomes most suggestible. Whatever thoughts you plant before bed don't just fade, they multiply. They sink into your nervous system and write the code you'll live by tomorrow. That's why anxiety creeps in late at night. That's why regrets feel louder. That's why you wake up drained even after 8 hours of sleep, because your mind never shut off. It just kept running the same broken loops. But what if you flipped the script? What if the last hour of your day became your most strategic? Imagine this light, dimmed phone off, one candle lit. You journal 3 wins from the day, 1 lesson and 1 intention for tomorrow. You stretch your body, breathe deep, speak 3 sentences out loud. I am proud of myself. I am growing. I am ready for what's next. You don't just fall asleep. You descend with purpose. And when you wake up, your mind is calm. Your direction is clear. Your power is intact. Winning the morning begins the night before. That's the habit. That's the edge. That's what separates the exhausted from the focused, the distracted from the disciplined. Brian started doing this every night. And in 3 weeks, his life changed. Not because of what he added, but because of what he removed. Chaos, noise, confusion. He learned how to end his day like a king, so he could enter the next like a warrior. And so can you. The last hour is either the slow death of your momentum or the beginning of your breakthrough. You choose. Kevin always wondered why his progress felt like a treadmill. So much movement, no forward motions. He was disciplined, he was driven, but something kept pulling him back. And one night after another, missed opportunity and another wave of frustration, he did something simple but rare. He looked around, not at his goals, not at his habits, but at his people. And that's when he saw it. His closest friends, the ones he laughed with, invented to lean on, weren't growing. They weren't building anything. They weren't thinking big. They were surviving, not evolving. And without realizing it, so was he. Let me ask you something. Who do you talk to when your dream gets bigger? Who claps when you win? Who checks you when you slack? Or more importantly, who subtly convinces you to stay the same? You see, influence isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. A joke that minimizes your ambition. A raised eyebrow when you say you're changing. A subtle pull back to the familiar. And if you don't protect your energy, if you don't audit your circle, you'll become someone who's too loyal to your past to honor your future. Here's the warning. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. You can have the best goals in the world, but if you're surrounded by people who normalize average, you'll shrink to fit. But the opposite is also true. Kevin made the hardest decision of his life. He stepped back. He created space. And in that space, he found people who challenged him, who saw his greatness before he fully did, who pushed him to rise. And slowly his life began to reflect a new standard. That's the habit. Audit your inner circle like. Your life depends on it. Because it does. Every person in your space is either planting belief or doubt, fuel or friction. So look around. Who's keeping you sharp? Who's watering your vision? And who needs to be loved from a distance so you can grow into the version of you that doesn't need permission anymore? The next level of your life will demand a new level of alignment. And it starts with who you let walk beside you. Nick wasn't lazy, he was stuck. His mind raced with ideas, his goals were clear, but every time he tried to act, it felt like dragging his body through wet cement. He called it burnout, blamed it on timing, said he needed clarity, but the truth was simpler and more dangerous. He wasn't moving, not physically, not emotionally, not at all. He was overthinking instead of outpacing his fear. You ever been there, sitting at your desk, staring at the same screen, cycling through the same doubts, convincing yourself that once you feel ready, you'll start? Here's the truth. They lied to you. Readiness is not the fuel of action, it's the result of it. The brain doesn't shift because you think more. It shifts because you move. And when your body is stuck, your mind stays trapped. The fastest way out of your own head is to get into motion. That's the key. That's the fix. That's the signal. Your nervous system needs to snap out of overanalysis and step into momentum. Nick started with a walk, 10 minutes, no phone, no podcast, no noise, just movement. And what began as a stroll turned into strategy. As his feet moved, his mind cleared, his energy shifted. The ideas that once felt overwhelming started to organize themselves, and the decisions he'd avoided for weeks became obvious. Why? Because motion breaks the loop. It interrupts the pattern. It reminds your brain that you are not stuck. You're just stagnant. And there's a difference. You don't need to fix your whole life in one day. You just need to move. Every day, move your body, and your mindset follows. Movement releases, stress boosts focus, restores clarity. That's not motivation, it's biology. So here's the habit before you scroll, before you overthink, before you spiral into another loop of hesitation. Move, walk, stretch, train, dance if you have to, but move. Because the body in motion becomes the mind in momentum, and the man who moves, even when he doesn't feel like it, is the man who never stays stuck for long. Every night before you close your eyes, you're given one last chance to lead your life. Instead of just living it, one last moment to look yourself in the mirror and ask the question most people run from: did I win today? Not in a way that seeks perfection, not in a way that counts trophies, likes or praise, but in the quiet, unfiltered truth. Did I show up? Did I move forward? Did I live this day like it mattered? Because here's what no one tells you. Most people don't lose because they lack talent. They lose because they stop tracking. They coast, they drift. They let days pass without checking in on who they're becoming. And when you stop measuring, you stop growing. But what gets measured gets mastered. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be aware. You need a system that forces honesty. That's where this habit becomes your edge. Every night score your day on the three things: energy, intention and alignment. Give yourself a number from 0 to 3. Did you protect and direct your energy or let it be stolen? Did you act with clear intention or drift on autopilot? Did you live today aligned with the person you say you want to become? Or did you betray your own standard? This isn't about shame, this is about feedback. Low scores don't mean failure, they reveal the pattern. And high scores, they build confidence, proof, momentum. Because the more days you stack with high energy, real intention and aligned action, the more unstoppable you become. And if you've had a rough week, if you felt off track, unfocused, uninspired, this is where you start again. Not tomorrow, not next Monday. Now this simple habit pulls you out of emotional fog and into personal power. You don't fix your life by force. You fix it by awareness. And you can't change what you don't measure. So tonight, just start. Grab a pen. Reflect. Be real with yourself. Ask the question, did I win today? If yes, stack it. Build from it. If no, study it, learn from it, then decide how you'll move differently tomorrow. The scoreboard doesn't lie, but it doesn't shame you either. It guides you. And when you start living each day, knowing you're going to be accountable to that final question, you begin to move differently. You speak with more intention. You protect your energy like it's your inheritance. You align your actions with your future self, not your fears. Because that final score isn't just a number, it's the reflection of who you chose to be when no one was watching. And it's those choices made in private that shape the public results everyone will one day see. So here's your challenge for the next 30 days. Journal your score every night. Energy, intention, alignment. 0 to 3. No excuses, no filters, just truth. Watch what happens. Watch how your days stop blending together. Watch how your clarity sharpens your discipline, hardens your identity, upgrades. This is the kind of small habit that rewires the architecture of your life. And if this hits something inside, you don't let this moment fade. Comment below and tell me your score. Even if it's a 1, even if it's a 0, especially if it's a 0, because that means you're aware, and awareness is the beginning of all transformation. Subscribe to this channel right now if you're ready to stop letting days slip by unnoticed and start living on purpose. This is where the next version of you begins, not in the grand declarations, not in the highlight reels, but in the small, honest decisions that compound into a legacy. Your legacy won't be built in a single moment, but in the moments you refuse to give up. Score your day, own your night, win your life.